Good afternoon, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a good day and God bless you. Let's get into the news. They know what's happening, folks. From Joe Rogan to MSNBC to California Governor Gavin Newsom to regular people having a conversation at the bar, families discussing politics at the dinner table. The prevailing sentiment here is that Democrats have completely lost control, and that the potential of them holding on even slightly is pretty much non-existent at this point. It seems as though it's over. And just when you thought that it couldn't get any worse for the Democrats, because it's been pretty bad. Well, it continues to get even worse. I just showed you guys this graphic the other day, I think maybe 4 or 5 days ago, definitely less than a week ago, where we were seeing 225 seats safe Republican and 35 toss-ups. Most of those toss UPS-leaning Republican will already, and as I stated less than a week, it shifted. There's now 228 safe Republican seats and 33 toss-ups. 5 out of the 6 races that have shifted towards the GOP, and almost every single race and toss-up territory is Democrat control and likely to swing Republican. This whole thing, folks, is swinging. But of course, that's just the House. It's been a given basically for a while here. The Senate keeps on shifting as well. We've been talking a whole lot about these high-profile races across the nation. One race, however, that I've been a little bit hesitant to cover as being a potential Republican flip has been the Senate race in the state of New Hampshire. Well, the most recent poll that we have here from St. Elsem is now showing a Don Bolduc lead of 1 percentage point over Democrat incumbent Maggie Hassan. This is huge. The video I recorded before this might have just sealed the deal for Blake Masters as the Libertarian candidate drops out of the race and endorses Masters. That's a possible Senate seat. Herschel Walker takes the lead. That's another. Adam Laxalt is likely to run away with it in the state of Nevada, again defeating a Democrat incumbent, John Fetterman. His campaign is in the gutter right now in Pennsylvania, as Dr. Oz is also expected to win. And then on top of that, Don Bolduc is now trending towards a victory in New Hampshire. Republicans might win 54 seats in the Senate, and I have maintained the same stance over a month. People have said no, of course not. Republicans probably aren't going to win the Senate but are going to win the House. I've been saying for months. I think the Republicans are going to win 51 seats easy, and I think they could win all the way up to 54. Well, folks, it might actually be happening. And speaking of bad news for Democrats, we have bad news for Democrats in Pennsylvania, as John Fetterman hometown newspaper just endorsed Dr. Oz in the Pennsylvania Senate race. John Fetterman hometown newspaper, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, has endorsed Republican Dr. Oz in the Pennsylvania Senate race. Newspaper endorsements rarely count for much unless they make a surprising choice that makes people take notice. This is one of those cases from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette editorial. Better bet. Despite turbulent Senate race, AWS is better prepared to lead despite deep ideological differences between Mehmet Oz, a right-leaning Republican, and John Fetterman, a left-leaning Democrat. The U.S. Senate campaign in Pennsylvania has mostly skirted the issues. It has been a slugfest marked by relentless attacks and counterattacks that generated more heat than light. During Tuesday's debate, after hundreds of thousands of votes had already been cast, voters finally learned something about where the candidates stood. They learned, among other things, that Mr. Oz opposes federal intervention and abortion rights, and Mr. Fetterman supports the broader constitutional guarantees provided by the overturned Roe v. Wade decision. They learned Mr. Fetterman supports a federally mandated $15 minimum wage, and Mr. Oz wants market forces to raise wages. They learned both candidates support fracking. They also learned that both men are politicians, as they ducked and dodged questions about why they changed their minds on fracking. Neither candidate has experienced as a U.S. Senator. Given the lack of substance during the campaign, many voters will have to make a leap of faith on November 8. We believe Mr. Oz is a better bet for Pennsylvania. Here's the most brutal part. Mr. Fetterman's life experience and maturity are also concerns. He has lived off of his family's money for much of his life. That has allowed him to do some good things, including mentoring disadvantaged young people and working to improve community policing and economic development. And Braddock, that work along with his 6'8" frame, shaved head, and tattoos attracted national media attention. Still, Mr. Fetterman, despite his hoodies and shorts, has little experience in holding real jobs or facing the problems of working people. That is a dagger in the Fetterman campaign, and honestly, the entire Democratic campaign apparatus is in total freefall. They've been trying to stop the bleeding, as I mentioned in my previous video. They've been trying, but the cut is two who do the entire Democrat machine is at the behest of gravity and is plummeting down at an accelerating rate, and it's about to hit the heart of concrete and shatter into a million pieces. Every single key Democrat race has gone to complete crap for them. They have made no gains. There are no surprises. It's just Democrats tanking across the board in the most important races. I can see it, MSNBC hacks can see it. Joe Rogan can see it, Joe Rogan's guests can see it, you can see it, your family members probably see it, it seems as though everyone can see it. The Democrats are in freefall. And then, this is some big news, we have a massive shake-up in a key battleground race that has the Democrats in an absolute panic because they know that if this state goes, it all goes and there's no coming back from here. You're not gonna want to miss this. We woke up this morning to an absolute stunning projection. This is coming from the Real Clear Politics aggregate. So if you don't know, our CP averages all the polls to give you an aggregate poll number for each candidate. They have a House, Senate, and gubernatorial projection map for the midterms. As of this morning, our CP has officially flipped their senatorial projection for the battleground state in New Hampshire. Now, ladies and gentlemen, New Hampshire is red. They are now projecting that the MAGA Republican Don Bolduc will indeed beat the Democrat incumbent senator and swamp creature par excellence, Maggie Hassan. This is an absolute stunner. It was, of course, just a few weeks back New Hampshire was projected to be a solid Democrat hold a tough. Then last week, as Bullock was surging in the polls, it went to a toss-up. Now, New Hampshire is officially, according to RCP projections, New Hampshire is officially red. It's being projected as a Republican pickup, which means that the RCP now has moved their total projected senatorial win for Republicans from 53 to 54 seats. We are just one seat shy of a 1994 stall Republican revolution in the Senate. That's the bombshell news as of this morning. Now, that said, I gotta say on the outset, and I know this is totally uncharacteristic of me, I am a bit skeptical here with New Hampshire. Okay. And the only reason I say that is because New Hampshire went just so over the top with bumbling Biden in 2020. Biden won New Hampshire by 7 points. So that's a big deficit to make up. Now, that's not to say that Boulder can't do it. It's just to say that for whatever reason, New Hampshire voters, when it comes to DC, they just love the swamp. Now, my one glimmer of hope here is that New Hampshire has a Republican state government. They actually have a triumph for it. Right. So Republicans hold the governor's seat, the state Senate, and the state House, and yet the same voters voted overwhelmingly for Biden. So we'll see. I just want to remain cautious in our optimism here. But there is no question this projection is huge. Now, in addition to this bombshell news, we're seeing massive, and I mean massive, movement across the board towards the GOP on the generic ballot. The generic ballot simply asked voters, are you going to be voting for the Republican or the Democrat in the upcoming congressional election? Now, if you remember, just weeks back? I hope you remember because you're all killing me over it. In August or September. What were we being told by the legacy media every single day? Let me remind you, at the beginning of September, we were told by the Economist YouGov poll that the Democrats had, I kid you not, on the generic ballot, the Democrats had an 8-point lead. 8 points. What's going on? What's happening? Why are the Republicans losing this? Why are they blowing this? And I had to constantly reassure everyone that the summer months and even into the early fall in every single election cycle, there's always a response bias in favor of the Dems. And this is largely because Republicans have lives, we've got families, we have life obligations, and we don't want to be bothered with polling questions and surveys. This happens every single cycle. So Republicans are notoriously disproportionately silent during the summer months, and even to the fall months. But once Republicans get back into the game, the polls shift massively in our favor. That's exactly what we saw with Glenn Youngkin in Virginia, who, by the way, but won exactly 1 year ago today. But if you go back to the polling in the August lead up to the election, Terry McAuliffe was crushing Glenn Youngkin by 8 percentage points, 46 to 38. Winsome Sears was losing by 6. The Attorney General's race had the Republican down by 8 points as well. Now, of course, all three went on to win in an absolutely devastating and humiliating defeat for the Democrats in Virginia. This happens every election cycle, and so now when it comes to generic ballot, the dam is broken. Wait until you see these numbers. Alright, folks, look at these numbers. These are your major generic ballot polls as of this morning. Look at this. Every single poll shows a massive Republican swing. CNN has gone from a Democrat +3 to a Republican +4. That's a 7-point swing. In PR Morris Democrat +3 to a Republican +3 6-point swing. Suffolk Damage Dems +4 to now Republicans +4 an 8-point swing. Wall Street Journal Dems +3 to now Republicans +2 a 5-point swing. Emerson has gone from a tie to Republican +5. New York Times has gone from a Democrat +2 to Republican +4. Harvard Harris, look at this. They've gone from Democrat +2 to Republican +6 an 8-point swing. And Monmouth has just added to the Republican lead. They're now +6. Every single poll shows a massive swing to the GOP. And we talked about the bombshell poll from the Wall Street Journal in yesterday's video that at least in part explains this massive shit. Actually, there's really two things going on here. Again, across the board in each state, it's gonna work out a little differently. But in terms of a broad aggregate, there are two national dynamics that are propelling the Republicans to victory. So first and foremost, independents have broke towards the GOP overwhelmingly. The latest CBS YouGov poll is independents break into the Republicans by an overwhelming 16 points. And again, we know why. Right? We know why, gang. We've been talking about this over and over again leading up to this. What's the number one factor for determining how a midterm's gonna play out? What's the number one indicator? You got up presidential approval? If the president is popular, his party stays in power. If the president is unpopular, his party loses power. That's an unbroken pattern for over a century of midterm elections. And so take a guess at Biden's approval ratings among independents: 32%, 68% disapprove. So the Democrats get the Democrats are shot. Okay, they're done. You could stick a fork in them. Right now. This is why New Hampshire is about to flip this and this alone. So if the mass break towards Republicans among independents isn't bad enough for the Democrats, we have a second dynamic going on here. And that's the defection among white suburban women over to the Republicans. I mean, we devoted a whole video to this yesterday. This is so huge because it completely blows. It absolutely crushes the Democrats' strategy of making Roe v. Wade the centerpiece of this midterm election. The very Karens who are supposed to be coming out in mass and voting for the Democrats have betrayed their marching orders, and are now voting for Republicans in mass. White suburban women are now favoring the Republicans by total 15 points. It's a 26-point swing since the last time the Journal took the poll in August. This is a Democrat nightmare. Had you told Democrat operatives this was gonna happen back in August? They wouldn't believe. To me it was inconceivable. Right. I don't think you know what that word means. Little Princess Bride moment there. Right? Absolutely inconceivable. So these two dynamics, the mass break towards Republicans by independents and white suburban women, they're crushing the Democrats. I mean, there's just no other way to put this. And then you can add to that, of course, Latinos, the break towards her. But Rich Barris is saying that Miami-Dade in Florida is about to go red. Miami freaking day. That's like Baltimore County going red. I mean, this is insane stuff. So once again, look, we need to be vigilant. These are all projections. Anything can happen from now. Until then, we cannot even remotely be complacent. Remember, being a patriot is not expect nader sport. Being a patriot means being a participant. Get out there, volunteer to be a precinct worker and a poll watcher. Make sure every vote is counted by you. And with these projections in place, by God's grace, we are in for an amazing mentor. Thank you so much for listening. God bless. I'll be back soon with another report. God speak to each and every one of you. Thank you for all of your support. Thank you for all of your kind words.